Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. We'll be starting in just a few minutes, allowing people to gather together. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay, people starting to gather from around the world. It's so amazing. There we go. Yes. Happy Spiritual Sunday. Yes, good morning. Interesting how no matter what's going on in the world, even with this whole COVID corona thing, yes, at first it shook us a little bit. And now you see people starting to adjust to it. Yes, I know a lot of people going through difficult times, and we send them a lot of light to make it more merciful, to make it easier on them and help them have the strength of consciousness to continue through. But if you notice, it's like everybody is kind of adapting to whatever they need to do. Right? This is the power of humanity. This is the power of the light inside each and every one of us, is our ability, like the Kabbalists teach us, the light of the Creator in one aspect of physical form. We call it light, as in a flame, but it's also related to the energy of water. Water is the energy of mercy. It's like liquid light, if you will. And if you think of that, as I was just sharing with one of my children recently, you know, water has the power of perseverance and endurance and overcoming, and you know, it will pierce through anything. If you think about it, in some of the, you know, some places where you have tile floors, they'll throw water on it, and that's how they'll begin the cleaning process. But if you notice, water, because it's liquid light, will spread everywhere. If it reaches a chair leg, you know, that happens to be on the floor there, it'll find a way through, around, under. It'll find its way to continue. And I think this is one of the powers that we're all beginning to see more and more all around the world. The adaptability of the light in our soul to inspire us how to continue, how to move forward, how to persevere. And not only just persevere as in survival, but really how to thrive through this challenge and any other challenge that we may be facing. And that's really where we have to come to keep the focus, the consciousness, the awareness, and the recall that it's the light of the Creator is our power, that we are just vessels. We'll talk a little more about that this morning, but just to remember, we are just channels, instruments of the light of the Creator. And it's the light that gives us the thoughts, the ideas, the awareness, all the consciousness that we have is the power of the light. Okay, well, I hope most people are joined us. Whoops. Two things. Or one thing mainly before we do our affirmation, please make sure you're pushing the watch party. It has been very successful. I want to thank all of you who have created watch parties as we're live streaming, and also those of you who've shared the video even after we do our Spiritual Sunday. We're getting out to thousands of people that a year ago, even 6 months ago, we hadn't been able to reach. So it's with your help that we're able to reach out to more and more people. So please just take that moment, look below your screen there, and push the watch party, start watch party. Just let people have access to this wisdom. And thank you, Michelle. It's my joy and my pleasure to be here with you. So it's inspiring for me too. Oh, yes, good morning, good morning. So nice to be able to see the comments right away. Wow. We are all over the world. Okay, so let's do our affirmation together. Make sure I get it here for you. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. And I think that's really one of the great blessings from all of this challenge these last few months, is this idea of greater compassion. Yeah, I'm sure along the way there are still people who are, a little judgmental and upset and resentful, etc. But I think my observation, as I'm able to go out, either to the supermarket or whatever it is, or just observing, there's an awakening of compassion and love and care and blessings. And that's the direction we want to go in. And as we will talk about, this is what we would like to accelerate. So, as mentioned, there's so many things going on in the world, so many challenges, and so many questions coming along. Who is the Kabbalah Centre? Why do you do what you do? How come you don't follow tradition that said, people shouldn't be learning Kabbalah, et cetera, et cetera? So I thought I would like to incorporate in the message today the understanding of what is and who is the Kabbalah Centre. So many of you have already taken at least Kabbalah 1. So we'll go back for those of you who need a reminder, and those of you who've never taken Kabbalah 1 yet. Please go online, Kabbalah.com. I know there's a new Zoom International Kabbalah 1. It'll be the first time we're working this way now on Zoom. But one of the most senior teachers, Eitan Yardeni, is going to be giving Kabbalah 1 over Zoom. So for you and your friends, if you haven't taken it in a while, please, you should be getting an email shortly, right, to explain how that's going to work. And if you haven't taken the class, please take it and share it with your friends. So we go back to this thing called the endless world. The endless world is where the creator, and we have no concept, we have no term. The best thing we can say is the creator, but we don't have any way to grasp the creator itself. But what we can understand is the creator had this energy force called the light. It's total and absolute fulfillment. It's the pure and perfect energy of sharing, enlightenment, illumination, and total completion, fulfillment. So the creator created a vessel, a container for that light, which is our soul. So this one infinite soul, and that's why we are constantly reminded we are one soul together, and why we do have impact on each other for good or for bad, and you and I making the good much stronger than the bad. But our soul is filled with this light of the creator. So imagine that sensation. If we can sort of anthropomorphize, we'll think of it in human terms in this moment. Somebody just gave us collectively the greatest gift, this power of creation itself, this power and sense of total fulfillment and bliss. It's almost like when you see some of these movies where people, I don't know, either they get an electric jolt or they're taking some pill or whatever it is, and suddenly everything is enlightened. Suddenly they know everything. They can see the world differently. They have a whole new perspective on life, like all the answers just dropping in their head. So imagine one infinite vessel, one soul that's filled with this light of the creator. Just think of what that must have felt like. Think of the greatest, happiest moment of your life, the greatest joy you've ever experienced. Think of that. That's going on inside your soul. But now comes the key that brings us to where we are today. We had that feeling, that sensation. We felt that power, that capability. But it was not made manifest. It wasn't manifest. We couldn't manifest it unless we acted the way the creator acted. So again, in metaphorical terms, the creator, by sharing this light with us, was infinitely blissed out, infinite goodness, peace, harmony, happiness, etc., etc. So then from our point of view, we have the light inside of us. We have the capability to be totally blissed out, but the law of cause and effect, the law of affinity. If we want to have what we perceived the creator has, total bliss, we have to act like the creator. So then our only purpose to come into this world was to emulate the creator, to do acts of sharing with each other without condition, unconditional sharing, especially as you and I have come to understand through the difficult situations. But that unconditional sharing of the light, taking the light that's in our soul and activating it through words, thoughts, and actions of sharing kindness, love, compassion, generosity, etc., that's what will make it manifest, and we will be able to experience physically, if you will, what we're feeling inside metaphysically, right? You have some great news, something wonderful happened to you, and you want to tell people. You're already feeling the goodness, but there's a certain sense almost of a lack until you share it with somebody. Then you find somebody to share it with, and you're sharing your good news and all that good energy and all that love and goodness. Now it's becoming real, manifest for you, right? Inside it's just the potential, outside it's being made manifest. Now, what's the challenge of that? So we created this physical world to be able to emulate the creator. What's the glitch? What's the challenge? Or if you will, the blockage, is we had to also have free will, which means that there has to be an opposing force, which we've called the opponent, the adversary. There's that opposing force that does what? It challenges us by influencing us to think selfishly. In other words, we left the endless world as a vessel with the desire for fulfillment, the desire to receive fulfillment, filled with the light, which is the energy of sharing. And now we have free will. We can act like the vessel, receiving, give me, I want, or we can act like the light. Let me share. Let me extend myself outside my comfort zone to share that light in whatever the appropriate way is. So the opponent is basically there to activate and tempt us to go back to only our vessel nature. Give me, give me, give me. I want instant gratification. I want comfort. I want happiness. I want money. I want joy. I want vacation. I want car. I want all these things. Give me, give me, give me. But that wasn't the creator. The creator was constantly sharing. And the beauty of that system is, as we share our light, as we make it revealed by sharing to our next highest level through whatever challenge, difficulty, blockage, limitation we may have felt in the previous moment, when we share beyond that, then we are raising our consciousness. We're raising the amount of fulfillment we feel because we're revealing more of the light of our soul. And that cause and effect will always come back to us equally. So to the extent we push ourselves outside our comfort zone, we're causing the universe to go beyond what we have perceived up to that moment, the limitation. So if a person, heaven forbid, is sick, that's their limitation. So by sharing outside their comfort zone in all ways, shape, or form, kindness, love, generosity, compassion, etc., sending healing energy to other people, then they're awakening and manifesting more of the healing energy that's already inside of us. We don't need to receive anything. We need to make it manifest. That's why we came here. So what's the technology? So now we've made it very simple. In the moment you're being triggered because something or someone has pushed the button, the wound that we created by previous negative behavior, jealousy, ego, fear, greed, etc. We have to be triggered so that we can heal that wound. But in that moment we're triggered, what's usually the first thing, almost our default human setting, is react, scream, yell, fight, bite, something about give me. You took away my comfort, I have to have it back now. Something is missing, I need to get it now. Why? Because we feel in our soul completely blissed out. We feel that we're supposed to have everything, and we are. It's just we're supposed to manifest it through our actions of transformational sharing. And as we do that, pause. We're being triggered, pause. In the moment we stop, we're creating a whole new world, just like when we left the endless world. We left the endless world with a pause. No, don't keep sharing with me. I can't just keep receiving. I have to be sharing. I want to emulate the creator. I want to make this all manifest. So we paused, we created the physical universe. We created the Big Bang, everything in this physical universe, the stars, the planets, the trees, the animals, the rocks, everything. We created it. Now, within our daily life, every time that we're challenged, we're being triggered, somebody pushes our button and we pause, that's our opportunity to create a new world again. Meaning, I don't want the status quo. I don't want the same thing that I had up to now, because even if I've revealed 60% of my soul's light, I'm missing 40%. I don't want to stay at 40% missing. I want to reveal more. I want to get to 35% missing, 65% fulfilled, 70%. So I have an opportunity to create a new world for me. Each of us have an opportunity when we can pause in the midst of feeling triggered, having those buttons pushed, we have the ability of creating a new world. That's when the opponent comes in and says, no, remember the last time you scream and yell, you got your way. So you got instant gratification, do it again. And that's the part we've got to say, no, I don't want the same old, same old. I want a new world, a higher world. I want a world that's more fulfilling to me and to other people. I want a world with less darkness, less pain and suffering. And so if we think about it in these terms then, if in the endless world, the Creator already gave us all the light, shared 100% with us, then our job is simply to make it manifest. And the light that's inside of us, whose nature is to share, is always pushing on us, influencing us, urging us, giving us motivation and enthusiasm in order to share. So the end of this process, and it is a process that had a beginning, endless world, has a middle, so to speak, this world, and it has an end. There is an end to this process, which will be heaven on earth. That's guaranteed. No way we could stop that from happening. But how fast and what takes place in the route towards heaven on earth, that's where our free will enters in. As the Zohar and the Kabbalists explain, we can go the way of spiritual transformation, waking up spiritually, pushing ourselves to share more, to be grateful for the blessings of other people when we wanted to feel jealous, to have compassion and kindness on people when we wanted to feel judgmental and resentful and angry. That's the way the Zohar calls the way of mercy. By having this spiritual awakening, realize the benefit to extend ourselves and overcome the influence of that opponent that's telling us to be selfish in order to act with unconditional sharing and love. When we do that, that's the way of mercy. Unfortunately, the only other way for people to change is through difficulty, what's called the way of judgment, pain and suffering. As we all know, sadly, we've seen it in various ways in our own life, and we've seen it with other people. When people go through tragic circumstances, there is very often a change of heart. There's a change of direction in life. There's a change of priorities. What we're learning, and now you're beginning to understand the purpose of the Kabbalah Centre, is to teach people the wisdom of the Zohar and having the tool of the Zohar itself to awaken the consciousness that gives us the strength and the motivation to act transformationally sharing. Share outside my comfort zone, grow to my next level, because it's good for me. And the beauty of that system is, if I want all the good for me, if I want to reveal all the light the Creator put in my soul, the only way I can do that is by sharing beyond my comfort zone of the moment, to share more with you and everybody else around me. And that's what makes the challenges such great opportunities, because challenges, virtually by definition, are dark spots in our life. Where there's light, sure, could we enhance it? Yeah, like a dimmer switch. I could turn on the little bit of light, let's say in my dining room, and I can keep turning up the dimmer switch. But essentially what I'm really doing is, yes, I'm adding light, but I'm also taking away some of the darkness that was there around it till it's 100%. So when we're challenged, it gives us an ability to see clearly the dark spot in our life, and therefore we have the capability to emulate the Creator, to shine light where there was darkness, to send light, act with kindness and compassion and gratitude and tolerance towards other people when they're not behaving that way, when they're caught in the darkness. And we were just for a moment in that darkness, we pause, and now we can send light. Now we can share light. Now we can do those acts of transformational sharing and reveal more light. Then comes the trust, the certainty that even though I don't see the result always immediately, I know it is a process, that light that I've just revealed goes out into the universe, and our partner, the Creator, the universe, the technology, the system of the universe will bring it back to us in the best time, in the best way, for our highest good. So it may be in a minute, it may be in a month, it may be in years, but it will always come exactly the moment we need it. How many times have you looked back on your life and there were difficult challenges, difficult situations, and something, someone, some idea, some person, whatever it was, suddenly came out of nowhere, just showed up with the answer, the solution, the direction, the clarity, whatever we may have needed. That's the result of previous actions that we've done, where we've given unconditionally, where we extended ourselves to help other people, to share with other people. The universe brought it back Otherwise, how do you explain it? It came out of nowhere. I didn't plot and plan it, but the universe as our partner. The technology works together, cause and effect. I plant the seed, the universe, if you will, the spiritual nature decides when it's going to manifest. Just like farmers, you put a seed, or a botanist. If you're planting, plants in your backyard and you want to grow flowers, you put the seed in the ground. The technology of nature determines when the plant blossoms, when the fruit grows, etc. Our job is just to nurture it, care, and trust that the system is progressing. And that's what we've come to learn. So what's the Kabbalah Center? We believe in what the Zohar says. I've shared a few times now. You can look it up in your Zohar. The portion of Naso, verse 90, in the Raya Mehenan, in the Faithful Shepherd section, which are the words of Moses to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, that the Zohar is the only way every human being on earth can see peace in their life and peace on earth with mercy. Why? Because the power of the Zohar itself is the endless light. The wisdom in the Zohar is the technology that you and I are learning here in the Kabbalah Center of how to transform ourselves. The reason we came into this world, the detailed understanding of how I can fight my opponent and not other people and not the circumstances in order to reveal and manifest more of my soul's light. And then the universe will work to bring it back to me, to bring it back to each and every one of us. Again, right time, right place. Not when I want, because my want is based more so on my five senses. But when I need it, is based on my sixth sense, based on my soul's true needs, desires, and process. So, because the Kabbalah Center has a lineage, you have Rav Berg, who learned from Rav Brandwein, who learned from Rav Ashlag, who learned from a teacher that goes all the way back through Rabbi Isaac Luria in the 16th century, the Ari Kadosh, all the way back to Rav Shimon, the man who I don't want to say authored, but who made manifest from oral teachings into written form the Zohar itself 2,000 years ago, who learned from Moses and Elijah the prophet, who learned from God on Mount Sinai, that goes back all the way to the Garden of Eden, as we spoke, I believe, last week. When God spoke to Adam and Eve, meaning every human being on earth, that was the voice of the light in our soul speaking to us. That was the original teaching, if you will, of the Zohar. But for thousands of years, it just remained oral teachings until Rav Shimon put it in writing. So the point of the Kabbalah Center, I hope you're grasping it more and more, is because we are from a lineage of pure master Kabbalists. Rav Brandwein, Rav Ashlag's teacher, the Ari, etc., who taught, who wrote even thousands of years ago, that this wisdom belongs to all humanity. It doesn't belong to any one race, religion, culture, nationality, language, whatever. It belongs to every human being, because each and every one of us have a soul that was created by God in the endless world and filled with this light. So there is this one universal technology. How we use it, the way we use it, what we've come to call our cultures, religions, backgrounds, nationalities, etc. This is the derivation from that one original universal system. That's what the Kabbalah Center is teaching. And because we believe in this verse in the book, in the portion of Naso, that Moses told Rav Shimon, the only way humanity can exit the chaos, can overcome the chaos, the pain, the suffering, the death, and the negativity of the world, the darkness of the world, with mercy, is the books of the Zohar, is the Zohar itself. Then the mission of the Kabbalah Center for thousands of years, and since Rav Ashlag, almost 100 years, has been to spread this wisdom to everyone everywhere. It's also been the greatest criticism of the center, because unfortunately people, with the help of the opponent, came to believe that Kabbalah is a form of Judaism, Jewish mysticism or Jewish spirituality or whatever, the opposite. Kabbalah is the source and root of all spiritual wisdom, all scientific wisdom, everything. There is nothing that the Zohar cannot nor does not answer in a congruent way. That's what caught me 33 years ago when I was introduced to the Kabbalah Center. how everything was congruent with all the spiritual things that I had read before, all the scientific things I had learned in college and pre-med. It all fit congruently. Nice system. And that's what made me understand that the Zohar really is what it is. So 32 years ago when I became a teacher, there was nobody else teaching Kabbalah, and we were only 3 small offices in the world and a few hundred students around the world and 14 teachers. So we used to literally go knocking on doors to introduce people to Kabbalah. It was the toughest thing I ever did. I did it for just over 11 years. Probably the toughest thing I've ever done, just knocking on a door, saying, hi, I'm Chaim with the Kabbalah Centre. Can I tell you about Kabbalah? Have you heard about Kabbalah, et cetera, et cetera? But we saw miracles daily. Things happened, it seemed to us, much more rapidly. Right? We saw miracles. We saw people whose health changed, whose family changed. I had one guy, I'll tell you a quick story. I had one man, I walked into his office one morning, said, hi, I'm Chaim with the Kabbalah Centre. He says, oh, that's interesting. He says, about 6 months ago, there was a guy who also walked in here, and, I had a conversation with him and this, and I was just thinking about it this morning. I was looking for his number, and you walked into office. So we talked a little bit. He bought a set of Zohar, and we made a deal. I explained to him about scanning the Aramaic words, awakening his soul, sharing the energy, how to meditate on it, etc. Said, I will come back in 3 months, and you'll tell me what's changed in your life. So about 3 months later, I walked into his office again, and he recognized me. How you doing? Da-da-da. And I was about to ask him, what changed? And he just looked, he called his wife over. He says, honey, come over here. This is Chaim from the Kabbalah Centre, blah, blah, blah. He said, tell me, have you noticed any change in me in the last few months? And she went on to tell him a few things that were very specific, how he had changed different aspects of his behavior, et cetera, et cetera. And he thanked her, and then he showed me. We went to his coffee pot in his office. And remember, this is back in the probably late 80s, early 90s. And he said, here's my book of the Zohar. So every morning when I'm here at work and I go to make my cup of coffee, I open up the Zohar and I do my few minutes of scanning and sending energy to everybody. And in those few months, his wife, which is a very big thing, the people closest to us are often the ones who generally won't see the changes. So the fact his wife saw a very marked change in him in just these few months that he was consistently scanning and awakening that energy. And remember, for those of you who have the Zohar now, since the year 2000, we have the Aramaic with English translation, Spanish translation, etc. Back then, it was just Aramaic and Hebrew. So he had nothing to read. It was not an intellectual process. He was scanning to awaken the light in his soul, and that greater strength of awakening caused him to be more sharing, pushes all of us. You awaken the light in you, we are pushed, we are nudged, we are encouraged, we are motivated to do more sharing. Part of it by feeling more and more uncomfortable with our negative behaviors, with our lack of sharing, which motivates us to do more sharing. Oops, sorry. So we used to go out, like I said, and we used to knock on doors, miracles that happen. I mean, all kinds of things. I could give you a whole class just on a few of those miracles. I want to go into the next step. So the Zohar explains, the cure always comes before the problem, the solution always before the question. So here we were, we knew our mission was. When we were just a few people, the mission was spreading the Zohar everywhere. The Rav used to tell us, Rav Berg used to say, the people that we meet when we used to go knocking on doors, he says, Chaim, these people are in jail and you're walking in with a key to that jail cell. Or he'd say, the building is on fire and you're walking in with a fire extinguisher. This is what I grew up, so to speak, in the center understanding, right? The power of the Zohar to help free people from the limitations of the opponent, of the negativity, of the chaos and confusion of the world around us. So back in May, must have been April, May of 2001, we were at one of the international events, and the Rav got all the teachers in a room in one of the breaks, and the Rav was introducing us to something the Rav was now calling the Zohar Project, more formalized. that we needed to spread back then, we needed to spread 1 million sets of Zohar. Now, I want to just put it in perspective, because today it doesn't seem like a lot. We probably spread over 1 million sets. But back then, when the Rav said we have to spread 1 million sets of Zohar, we had just finished the biggest printing of Zohar in history, which was 50,000 sets of Zohar, right? And at that point, we didn't even have the little pocket Zohars nor the sacred Zohars. It was just the set of, in this case now, we had the Aramaic with the English translation, right? So we almost all fell off our chairs. 1 million sets, we just printed 50,000. But the Rav, with absolute certainty, he stood up in front of us and he began to explain. He says, the government, since World War II, since the atomic bombs, we know we have nuclear waste. And so the scientists, he says, the government's been collecting money on every energy bill, and the Rav knew the numbers, 1.2 whatever trillion dollars at that point they had in a fund to deal with nuclear waste. But the Rav explained, they have the money, but they don't have the technology. What were they doing? And still, I believe to this day, pretty much, they encase it in lead, they put it in the ground in concrete, and that's it, hoping that, that someday they'll come up with something. So the Rav shared with us, he says, I believe when the Zohar says that the pain and suffering, the chaos and negativity will disappear in the light of the endless that's channeled through the Zohar with mercy. So the Rav said, we'll take 151 boxes of Zohar, we'll put it in a nuclear dump, and then we'll go with a Geiger counter and we'll read, right, what the reduction of radioactivity is. So this was the beginning of the Zohar project. And as we all know, that was April, May of 2001, came September 2001, and the whole world changed. The cure came before the problem. The beginning of the Zohar project to spread Zohar all over the world began very formally. Yes, we were doing it for years before that. We knew that that was our mission. But at this point, obviously, the Rav, being a channel of light, being a true master Kabbalist, got that message. I don't know to tell you consciously or just channeled it, but the message came to the Rav. We needed to up the game. We needed to accelerate the spread of the Zohar. We had to set bigger goals to reach out to humanity. If the Rav knew 9/11 was coming or not, I can't tell you. But obviously the soul knew. The creator, the universe knew. And so as of September 2001, the whole world changed. And if you look back, especially those of you who are in America, it's something incomprehensible. Never in a million years would we have expected such a thing to take place. But in one level, it also put the world on the same page. It united the world in many different ways, for good and some for not so good. But it showed us that there's no part of the world that's separate from the rest. That idea of terrorism or negativity, even though it was around since the beginning of mankind, but now it was more intense. The game had been upped a little bit. There was a spiritual push, if you will. Look, things are getting more intense. The darkness is getting more intense, the negativity more intense, but so is the light. And so from that point forward, even in those few days of 9/11, we had our international event, Rosh Hashanah. Was 1 week after 9/11, and for the first time in history, it was planned a year or so in advance to be in downtown Manhattan. So here we were, 2,600 people gathered from all over the world that found their way. Some people had to fly into Canada and drive into New York. Some people went different ways, but 2,600 of us were there 1 week after 9/11, meditating and praying and bringing light to the world and spreading the Zohar. We sent Zohar down to ground zero, to the workers there, etc. Miraculous things happen, miraculous things. Since then, we've seen the world continue to transform. And now here we are, another big push and awakening, a reminder, the world is one. There is no separation. COVID, no respecter of persons, no respecter of country, no respecters of borders. It's everywhere, right? And it's invisible. It goes from person to person in some invisible, almost metaphysical way. So you and I understand, if that's how darkness works, if the darkness can travel that way, how much more powerful is the light? Is the light. Turn on a light in any dark spot on earth, the darkness instantly goes away and is replaced by the illumination of the light. How much more so the light of the Creator, the light of the endless, that each and every one of us have in our souls, and we can channel it out into the world. Remember, the route to heaven on earth, peace, goodwill towards all mankind, the route we take, judgment or mercy, is in our hands. So the world is changing. It's showing us there's no escape. The only one place, as the Zohar said, excuse me, in its written form 2,000 years ago, says, as we're coming to the end of this process, the world will be more extreme. They'll be more intense. As we're seeing, the darkness and negativity is getting more concentrated and extreme. Also, so is the light. There's more Zohar in the world now, more people learning Kabbalah through the center than ever in history. In fact, because of what we've been doing, and we were the first ones out there pushing the Zohar and Kabbalah in the world, probably in the late 90s, all of a sudden there were hundreds. Now there's probably hundreds of thousands of people out there teaching different things they call Kabbalah, or different aspects of Kabbalah. Okay, imitation, the greatest form of flattery. But we're still focused. Our mission is still doing the same thing. I wanted to bring up a couple things because of this change. We are coming, without going into all the details, you'll have to learn in more of the classes, coming to the end of the process. That's why things are increasingly, exponentially increasing in its intensity. And again, the darkness concentrating and the light concentrating. So the Zohar, it says, the Zohar, as I mentioned, was oral teaching. Adam and Eve heard the voice of God. On Mount Sinai, Moses wrote from the dictation of God the 5 books of Moses, but the Zohar was oral teaching. It was passed down orally, Kabbalist to Kabbalist to Kabbalist, until 2,000 years ago, when Rav Shimon Bar Yochai gathered his son and his 10 students, and he revealed, and they wrote the Zohar for the first time in history. And it says what? What set that moment apart from all the other great Kabbalists before? It says the love and the unity of those people who gathered, the students of Rav Shimon. The love and the unity created the vessel that allowed the light of the Zohar, the light of the endless, the channels through the words of the Zohar to be put in writing. So it would not be lost moving forward, and it would be accessible to you and I in our generation, in the end of the process, to remove pain, suffering, and death from the world. And so this is what the Zohar is. It's, yes, the endless light, which is what? Love and unity. Think about it. In the endless world, there was one endless vessel. We look around the world, we see 7.5 billion people. That's our illusion. The truth is that the light of our soul is still interconnected. We are still one soul. We're never separated. We are never disconnected, not from the endless world and not from the light in the soul of each other. Our work is to make it conscious, to make it with more consciousness, with more conscious thought, words, and actions of transformational sharing. And so then as we spread the Zohar, because not only is that endless light in the Zohar, but it's the light of love and unity. And that's the power of the center. What is it? The mission of the center? Removing pain, suffering, and death from the world. Remove the angel of death. The Zohar tells us how to do it. The Zohar is the power to do that, right? It's giving us the consciousness to speed up the process. That's why, yes, for you and I, students of the center now, we need not only to have the Zohar and spread the Zohar, but we need to make more use of it. Do your daily scanning a few times a day, scanning and send the energy of healing, love, compassion, spiritual awakening to the world. Help us speed up the process. But yes, physically, just the Zohar itself, to have the books of the Zohar in one's house, possessed, hold it in your pocket, in a purse, in the car, in the glove compartment. I can tell you dozens of stories about people who've been saved from major car accidents, etc., without injury, with minor injuries, etc. Miracles taking place just because of the presence of the Zohar, because it channels this endless light. It channels the light of love and unity. You tell most people, yeah, what's the mission of the center? Remove pain, suffering, and death from the world. Remove the angel of death. Well, then the opponent puts in their head, no, there's nothing sure but death and taxes, right? Everybody's died, etc., etc. Yes, it's a battle, but you and I, we affirm every week, consciousness is everything. We need to raise the consciousness that people will understand light, even the light of the endless, has removed the darkness called the angel of death. We have seen it happen. This is the purpose of the center, spreading the wisdom of the Zohar, but also spreading the books of the Zohar. We teach people so they have an awareness, they have a spiritual awakening, they realize the power of what we're doing and the benefit for us as an individual to do those acts of transformational sharing, to be of greater kindness, love, compassion, generosity, tolerance, humility, forgiveness, etc., towards all human beings, especially when we're being triggered, especially when there's a sense of lack or limitation or challenge or obstacle in the moment. People have asked me over the years, even students in the center, is it really just about spreading the Zohar? I mean, the Zohar is a book. Yes, that's the illusion. If we could make the Zohar look like a crystal, well, today everybody understands the power of crystals. Crystals channel energy. For those of you who are a little more mature, you remember crystal radios. A quartz crystal channeled the energy of the broadcast, right, the radio wave, and made it manifest in this thing called a radio. Even this thing you and I are now dealing with, the computer. We're all on our computers in one form or another. What's the basis of the computer? It's also silicon. It's a rock, right? It's an element. So when you look at the books of the Zohar, don't see books. See the infinite radiant, illuminating light of the endless. It shines brightly, and that light will take away the darkness. Now, let me give you the example that I shared with one of the students about a year ago. And she'd been around for a while, and she'd seen miracles. But the opponent is still the opponent, and until we're 100%, there's always going to be a question. So she asked me, she said, Chaim, is it really just about spreading the Zohar? And I told her yes. And then I gave her an example that I was inspired by the Rav and Karen. We happened to be at that point in a big room, right? And I said, imagine we're in this room and you see I'm spreading chairs. I'm just flinging chairs and obstacles all over the floor, right? Now, I take you and I put you at one door on one side of the room and force you, right? However you want to say, coerce you, you have to run across this room to the other door quickly or else, right? But I turn off the lights. So you know that there's obstacles, you know that you could bump into things, fall over things, heaven forbid, be hurt, etc., etc. So as you're standing in that door and I say the countdown, 5, 4, 3, and you got to go, how are you feeling? Well, of course, stressed, anxious, fearful, worried, resentful, all the negative emotions coming up, right? Because she knew there are obstacles. And in the dark, you can't see to navigate around them. I said, now let's envision. At that moment, you're standing there, the fear, the anxiety, the resentment, the hurt, whatever it is, and I turn on the lights in the room. All the darkness goes away. What changes? The obstacles are still there. You still have to navigate and run across that room. But the fact there's just the illumination, even before you took the first step, the fact that the light went on and took away the darkness, now what happens? The stress, the anxiety, all the discord, it disappears. Yes, I still have to navigate through the obstacles, but I don't have to worry about falling over them, etc. Because things are clear, because it's illuminated, if I stay focused, it's easy to go over, through, and around the obstacles to get to the other side safely. So how much more when and as we have been spreading the Zohar all around the world and just turning on the light, people automatically, their consciousness changes. People who are caught in the darkness, it's easier for us with the help of the opponent to justify and rationalize our reactive negative behavior. Well, they deserved it. You saw what they said, how they acted, what they did, etc., etc. But once you turn on the light, and it's easier and clearer for us to see the cause and effect, to be more conscious and aware, then we know that our reactive behavior, even though it gives us instant gratification, will come back with another challenge, will come back with some form of chaos that has to be corrected. So the fact the light goes on, I will see that in the moment before I do the act, the pause. Now I have clarity. Wait a second. Here's the obstacles. The obstacle is not the other person. The obstacle is not what they're saying. The obstacle is not what I perceive I'm missing out on. The obstacle is the opponent in my head that's constantly telling me all the negative things about other people, limitations of myself, that things can't work out, all the doubt, the fear, the worry, etc. That's what the illumination will take away. Once things are illuminated, like in that room, once you turn on the light, sure, I could still be saying that you'll never do it, you can't do it, you're limited, but she would realize, yes, she still has to focus and navigate the obstacles, but because there's illumination, she is capable to do it without harm. This is the power. This is why the Kabbalah Centre is dedicated and committed to spreading the wisdom of the Zohar, the teachings of Kabbalah, and the physical books itself. We have a Zohar project. In fact, if you go on Facebook, well, you're on Facebook, and you look up Zohar project, you will see different places. You have Australia in the last few months. You have all over the world people spreading the Zohar. In New York, wherever there was a disaster. In Italy, if you look at it, in Italy, while there was the rise of this COVID, we spread, I believe it said 1,600 Zohars all over Italy, and it, according to the medical community, it cut short the peak. In other words, they were expecting a peak and then the decline of COVID cases to be a week or so in the future, and as the Zohar spread, that became the peak. So it speeds up the process. And there are thousands and thousands of stories I could tell you, and the other teachers could tell you, of people who've seen miracles. On a collective level, huge things take place. Hurricanes, earthquakes, fires, floods that have been prevented, people been protected through them, etc. The only common factor is the Zohar. So what is the Kabbalah Centre? And I want to read this. This is one way that I would describe the Zohar, the Kabbalah Centre. It's a group of loving, caring, sharing people who dedicate all or part of their lives to the removal of pain, suffering, and death from all human beings, regardless of race, religion, color, culture, creed, background, etc., by spreading the wisdom of Kabbalah, taught by the lineage of Kabbalistic masters, as we discussed, from Rav Shimon himself, the Ari, Baal Shem Tov, Rav Ashlag, Rav Branwein, to the Ravberg and Karenberg, and to cover the world with Zohar, creating a new world without pain, without suffering, without death. And that's who we are. We're people all over the world. We are people beyond culture, creed, religion, background, etc., all over the world. Many of you, you're all over the world now, watching right now. This is the Kabbalah Centre. So then, a couple people have asked me recently, so why is it? All right, the Kabbalah Centre, and as we do every Sunday, you're asking for money. Why are you asking for money? Right? And this is the answer. One, the obvious answer, sort of in the 1%, we need to pay the bills. We need to keep the platforms going. We need to be able to keep the centers going. We need to be able to support the staff and the people who are spreading this wisdom, etc. Yes, that's in the simple 1%. The spiritual answer, according to the Bible, and Kabbalistically, if you've taken prosperity classes, the Bible says every human being needs to tithe, give 10% of whatever the Creator gives them. So whatever our resources are, we need to give. You're making $1,000 a month. The Kabbalists explain how and why, but the Bible telling us we are basically obligated to give $100 away to spread light, to bring illumination. It's almost like paying God back. So what better place, what better way to give that 10% than to spread the Zohar, which will remove the angel of death itself. And then, for me personally, I guess in my life, the real answer is why we need the money. Because in 1987, when I first came to the center, in 1988, I became a teacher. My father went through, at an older age, he went through brain surgery. The doctors gave him almost no chance to live. And even if he had lived, they said he was going to be disabled. brain surgery in his 70s. So I made him get a set of Zohar, and he lived not only an extra 18 years, because he probably should have died at that point, but he went back to school. There was no disability. He went back to school, got his PhD in hypnotherapy, psychology. He went back to playing tennis. He was active all of his life till like the last year when he passed in 2005. So he extended his life 17 years of extra life, I believe, because of the Zohar. So why do we need the money? Because as the Rav told us when the Rav introduced the Zohar project, the government has the resources, $1 trillion, but they don't have the technology, not even to remove radiation from radioactive waste. We have the technology. We've seen the miracles. Many of you who are here watching today have personally experienced miracles. So we have the technology. We don't have enough resources. So yes, we do need the money. We need resources to be able to print and spread more Zohar, especially now with this COVID thing. The center is offering support, help for people who want to learn, who want to partake of these various events, even the classes, on a donation basis. But that means those of us who are capable to give more, share more, we ask from the bottom of our heart that you do give more. Help us in this mission. Because in the end of the story, what you give not only comes back to you, but as we will spread enough Zohar and get rid of the angel of death, then none of us will ever have to say goodbye. God bless. Thank you for letting me share that with you. And yes, turning on the light takes away the darkness. Now I'm seeing a few of the comments. Yes. So as we do, as I just mentioned, we do need your help and support. We cannot do it without you. We're in it together, physically, spiritually, in every way, shape, or form. It's all of us. And this is why I've always made sure to take these few moments to put our consciousness into the offering, into the gifts that you share with us. And I know some of you out there, and I want to be very open with you, some of you out there who've been watching, I know some of you give from the bottom of your heart what you can, but some of you haven't given yet. Some of you have the capability to give. And I'm just asking you, open your heart. Think about what's going on in the world. Look objectively. Tune out the opponent. And ask yourself, what greater investment, if you're gaining anything, if you're gaining any awakening, enlightenment from Spiritual Sunday, from anything we do in the Kabbalah Centre, isn't it worth supporting us to make sure other parts of your soul are also benefiting and have the capability to remove their pain and suffering, because theirs is ours, as is their good and their blessing is also ours. So let's just close our eyes for a moment. And yes, you can go on the website, all right? And I'll post it here in a few minutes after we finish, just to make sure, because some people have had difficulty finding it. But yes, go give what you can, participate on Kabbalah.com in the live streaming, in the classes, share it with other people. Let's make sure the light is spreading faster than the darkness. So let's just envision together the endless light. Open your heart, open your soul to feel, to remind yourself what it felt like to be in the endless. Pure light, unity, oneness. And taking that into this world, keeping our heart and our soul open, remembering we are only one and one altogether. It's simply an illusion that we are separate people. I have 10 fingers, but they're all part of my one being. So there may be 7.5 billion fingers to the one soul of humanity. And remind ourselves that it's the light that animates us. It's the light that gives us what we have, what we are, what we're capable of. And so we want to have tremendous gratitude, increasing the value, the appreciation we have for what the Creator has given us, what we're able to use, our talents, abilities, our family, our friends, all of our resources. Infuse them now with consciousness of greater light, greater gratitude, greater appreciation, greater blessings. And let's remember, we came into this world with only one mission: to emulate the Creator by sharing. Sharing the light in our soul, making it manifest. Allowing the light to do its work to take away the darkness. The revelation, as we share our light with others through the darkness, removing the darkness and allowing the light to do its work, to give us the illumination, the clarity, the inspiration, the guidance. Grateful that we are learning here in the center how to be more and more pure channels of light, taking out our ego, taking out our selfishness, transforming all of our previous blockages. And let's envision so much light, so many Zohars around the world, that there's only light in the cosmos. Every human being influenced only by the light of the endless, the light of love and kindness and compassion, the light of unity. And with this open heart and this appreciation, we are blessing the gift that we share through the center to bring peace and harmony to the world. We know that it goes out, cause and effect, it will come back many, many times over with blessings, with prosperity, with health, with love and joy. Together we say, Amen. Thank you for letting me share with you. Please make sure others have the opportunity also to hear these messages, and let them know that they can go on Kabbalah.com, they can learn. There's a new class coming up. They can go on the Zohar Project Facebook page and see what we're doing and who's doing all over the world to spread this wisdom, to spread the Zohar, to make sure that we go the way of mercy. God bless. Have a great week. And again, those of you who would like to perhaps book a session, if you don't have a teacher and you'd like to book a session with me, please Facebook me. We can arrange that. I wish you all lots of love and light and blessings. And we're going to get through it together.